Welcome to the Velvet Crown Tales. Today's tale is called
The prince chose my sister, then the dragon bowed to me. The night Prince Cashen chose my sister to become his queen, a dragon bowed to me. Not a painting of one, not one of the little silver-scaled Drake's nobles kept chained in their gardens. A true dragon, the kind our histories claimed had vanished 300 years ago. And as every noble in the kingdom knelt before my sister, celebrating the woman who had stolen my future, the creature outside the palace lowered its enormous horned head. To me, my name is Elara Vale. And until that moment, I had spent my entire life learning how to disappear. My younger sister, Seraphine, had always been the beautiful one. She had our mother's golden hair, our father's violet eyes, and the sort of smile that made people forgive her before she had even done anything wrong. I had neither. My hair was black. My eyes were grey. And according to my grandmother, I had been born during a thunderstorm so violent that every candle in Castle Vale burned blue. Father didn't like anyone mentioning that. He preferred to say I had simply been a difficult birth. When I was 6, Seraphine knocked over Mother's favourite crystal vase. I was punished for it. When I was 12, she slipped away from our estate to attend a village festival. I covered for her. When I was 17, she fell in love with the son of a merchant, a match Father would never have allowed. I carried their letters. And when I was 21, she took the man I was supposed to marry. Prince Cashen, the future king of Astera. Our engagement had been arranged when I was 8. Cashen and I grew up knowing that one day we would marry. We weren't passionately in love, but we were friends. At least I thought we were. He knew I hated roses. I knew he couldn't sleep during thunderstorms. He taught me how to ride. I taught him how to cheat at cards. And somewhere between childhood and adulthood, I had foolishly begun to imagine that affection might someday become love. Then Seraphine returned from 3 years at the Southern Court. Cashen met her at the midwinter ball. 6 months later, everything changed. The night of the choosing ceremony, the great hall glittered beneath thousands of floating candles. Every important family in Astera had gathered beneath the vaulted ceiling. At the far end of the hall stood the ancient crown of stars. According to tradition, the heir to the throne would place the crown upon the head of his chosen bride. Everyone already knew that bride was supposed to be me. My silver gown had taken 4 seamstresses 2 months to make. Mother's moonstone necklace rested against my throat. Father stood beside me, practically glowing with pride. "Stand straight," he whispered. "I am standing straight." "Smile." "I am smiling." "More." I stretched my lips. Father frowned. "Perhaps less." Trumpets sounded. Prince Cashen entered. And I knew immediately something was wrong. He wouldn't look at me. My stomach tightened. Cashen walked toward the pedestal holding the crown of stars. The high priest raised his hands. "Your Highness, before the eyes of the kingdom and beneath the judgment of the heavens, name the woman who shall stand beside you." Silence fell. Cashen lifted the crown. Then he turned. Not toward me. Toward Seraphine. I heard Father inhale sharply. My sister stood 3 places to my left in a pale blue gown. Her eyes widened beautifully, as if she had no idea this was coming. Cashen crossed the hall. "Lady Seraphine Vale," he said. Whispers erupted. I couldn't move. Cashen stopped before her. "Will you become my wife and when the day comes, Queen of Astera?" Seraphine looked at me. Just for a second. And in that second I knew. She had known. They both had. For how long I couldn't say. But this was no sudden declaration. This had been planned. Then she looked back at Cashen. Yes. The hall exploded in applause. I didn't cry. That seemed to disappoint several people. Instead, I stood perfectly still as Cashin placed the crown meant for me on my sister's golden head. Father leaned close. Do not make a scene. I stared straight ahead. You should be telling her that. His fingers tightened around my arm. Elara. Then the palace shook. The applause stopped. A second impact rattled the windows. Someone screamed. Guards rushed toward the doors. A roar rolled across the palace grounds. It was so deep that I felt it inside my bones. The massive doors burst open. Cold wind swept through the hall. And beyond the marble steps, something enormous descended from the clouds. Black wings covered the moon. People ran. Nobles hid beneath tables. Soldiers raised spears with shaking hands. The dragon landed in the courtyard. Its scales were midnight black streaked with silver. 2 horns swept back from its skull. Its eyes burned molten gold. The high priest whispered one word. Impossible. The dragon stared into the hall. At first I thought it was looking at the crown of stars. Then its gaze shifted. Directly to me. Something inside my chest grew warm. The moonstone at my throat cracked. And the dragon bowed. Every person in the hall saw it. Its head lowered until its horns nearly touched the stone. A voice entered my mind. Not spoken aloud. Older than speech. Older than kingdoms. At last, my knees nearly gave out. Then the creature raised its head and launched back into the sky. For several seconds nobody moved. Father released my arm. Cashin stared at me. Seraphine's triumphant smile had vanished. And the high priest looked terrified. That should have been my first warning. By sunrise, I was a prisoner in my own home. Father ordered the servants to lock my chamber. 2 royal guards waited outside. No explanation was given. Apparently being publicly rejected by a prince was acceptable. Having a dragon bow to you was treason. Around noon, Seraphine visited. She entered wearing the crown of stars. I looked at it. You sleep in that now. Her hand flew to the crown. I came to see if you're all right. How thoughtful. Elara. How long? She stopped. How long have you and Cashin been together? Her silence answered me. 3 months. Nothing. 6. She looked toward the window. Almost a year. That hurt more than I expected. A year. We didn't mean for it to happen. No one ever does. Please don't make this crueler than it needs to be. I laughed. She actually looked offended. You want me to avoid cruelty. Cashin loves me. And therefore lying to me for a year was necessary. We were trying to find the right time. The right time was apparently in front of 700 people. Her expression hardened. You never loved him. I stood. You don't get to decide that. You hardly touched him. Because we weren't married. You never looked at him the way I do. Perhaps because I've known him since he used to put frogs in the palace fountain. Seraphine folded her arms. You don't understand passion. Perhaps not. I looked at the crowns. But I understand loyalty. Her face changed. That one landed. Good. Before she could answer, voices sounded outside. The door opened. Cashin entered with the high priest. Seraphine immediately moved to his side. I nearly laughed again. Apparently my imprisonment had visiting hours. High Priest Oren studied me. He was a narrow man with white robes and a permanently disapproving mouth. Lady Elara, what happened last night? I was publicly humiliated, then a dragon appeared. I mean the dragon. So do I. Why did it bow to you? I was hoping you knew. His eyes narrowed. Cashin stepped forward. Elara, this is serious. I looked at him. He looked exhausted. Good. What would you like me to do, Cashin? Send the dragon a letter. This isn't a joke. Number yesterday was a joke, today is merely strange. His jaw tightened. Orin raised a hand. There are records beneath the royal temple, older than the kingdom itself. They speak of creatures called the first dragons. I know the legends. They are not legends. Clearly. Orin continued. The dragons served one bloodline, the rulers of a kingdom that existed before Astera. Valadrin, I said. Everyone looked at me. I frowned. What I read. Orin's face became even paler. Valadrin had supposedly been destroyed centuries ago, after its final queen attempted to control dragonfire. The survivors founded Astera, or at least that was the version taught to children. Orin approached me. The rulers of Valadrin were called dragonbound. The beasts did not obey them exactly, they recognized them. I remembered the dragon's voice. At last. My skin prickled. What does this have to do with me? Your mother's family descended from the eastern provinces. Yes. And her mother's family. I don't know. Father rarely spoke of grandmother's ancestry. Orin did. House Draven. The room went silent. I had heard that name before. In forbidden histories. House Draven. The last royal family of Valadrin. I laughed softly. You're saying I'm descended from dead kings? Queens, Orin corrected. Seraphine stepped forward. Then so am I. Orin looked at her. No. My sister froze. What? Dragonblood passes through the eldest daughter. Cashin stared at me. Seraphine's face drained of colour. And suddenly I understood why father had locked me away. Not because the dragon was dangerous. Because I was valuable. Orin's voice lowered. If the dragons have returned, then an ancient power has awakened with them, something your ancestors sealed beneath the northern mountains. What? The Hollow King. That name I did not know. Orin's expression was grim. If he rises, Astera will fall. I stared at him. And somehow that's my problem. Yes. Convenient. Elara, Cashin began. I looked at him. No. He stopped. For 21 years everyone told me exactly what my duty was. Marry the prince, protect the family name, smile correctly, speak softly, forgive Seraphine, obey father. I pointed toward the door. Yesterday you relieved me of one of those obligations. His expression twisted. Elara, I never wanted to hurt you. Yet here we are. The palace shook again. Far away something roared. Orin closed his eyes. The dragon is calling her. I felt it too. A pull. North. Like an invisible thread tied around my heart. Orin looked at me. If you do not answer, others may die. That was unfair. Which meant it worked. I hated him for that. When do we leave? Father opposed the journey. Naturally. Then he discovered the king intended to send soldiers with me, and decided our family's continued relevance depended upon my cooperation. He hugged me before I left. For anyone watching, it looked affectionate. His whisper was less so. Whatever happens, remember you are a veil. I pulled away. No. He frowned. For once, father, I think I'll find out what else I am. I left before he could answer. The royal expedition consisted of 20 soldiers, High Priest Oren, and Prince Cashin. When I saw him saddling his horse, I almost turned around. "You're coming." The king ordered it. "Of course." Cashin sighed. "Can we please survive the journey before you decide how much you hate me?" "I don't hate you." That surprised him. The opposite of love isn't hatred, Cashin. I mounted my horse. "It's indifference." It wasn't entirely true, but his face made the lie worthwhile. For 3 days we traveled north. The weather grew colder. Villages became scarce. At night I dreamed of wings. On the 4th evening the dragon returned. We had camped near an abandoned watchtower. The soldiers drew their weapons. I walked beyond the firelight. Elara, Cashin hissed. The dragon landed in the field. Up close it was enormous. Its head alone was taller than I was. The gold of its eyes reflected the stars. I swallowed. "Hello." The dragon blinked. I felt ridiculous. Apparently we're related somehow. Another blink. Not biologically, I hope. A rumbling sound rolled through its chest. For one horrifying second, I thought it might burn me alive. Then I realized. It was laughing. The voice returned to my mind. "You are strange." I stared. "You can speak. You can listen. What's your name?" The dragon lowered its head. Images filled my mind. A mountain. A crown. Fire. A woman with my face. Then a word. Nyxarian. Nyx then. The dragon snorted smoke directly into my face. I coughed. "Fine, Nyxarian." Behind me Cashin slowly approached. Nyxarian growled. The prince stopped. "Apparently he doesn't like you," I said. "How unfortunate." "I find it reassuring." Nyxarian lowered one wing. I stared at it. "No. Come. I have a horse. Slow. He's a perfectly respectable horse." The dragon showed several dozen teeth. I looked back at Cashin. Is he smiling? I don't think we should find out. 10 minutes later, I was sitting between the ridges of Nyxarian's back. I had never been more terrified in my life. I had also never felt more alive. Nyxarian launched. The earth vanished beneath us. I screamed. Then I laughed. Wind tore through my hair. Mountains stretched toward the horizon. The moon hung impossibly close. For the first time in my life, there was nothing above me. No roof. No father. No palace. No crowns. Just sky. Nyxarian carried me north, toward a mountain split down the center by a river of black stone. We landed before enormous doors carved into the cliff. A woman waited there. She wore black armor. Silver hair reached her waist. And though she looked no older than 40, her eyes held centuries. "Elara Draven," she said. I dismounted shakily. "Veiled? Not here." The woman bowed. "I am Melee's keeper of the last flame. Everyone keeps giving me titles I don't understand." "You will." Behind us Nyxarian roared. Torches ignited one by one along the cavern, revealing dozens of dragons. Red, silver, blue, gold. Some enormous, some scarcely larger than horses. All staring at me. I whispered, "Oh." Melee smiled. "Welcome home." The truth was worse than the legend. Valadrin had not been destroyed because its queen tried to control dragons. It had been betrayed. The first kings of Astera had feared the dragon-bound queens. They wanted the dragon's power, so they allied with a sorcerer called Malrek, the Hollow King. Malrek promised to destroy House Draven. Instead, he attempted to devour the dragon's magic for himself. Queen Elara Draven stopped him, but she could not kill him. So she sealed Malrek beneath the northern mountains using her own life force. Her eldest daughter escaped south. Over generations, the bloodline weakened. Until me. Why now? I asked. Meleys looked toward the cavern ceiling. Because the seal is failing. Why? The crown of stars. My stomach dropped. The crown Seraphine is wearing. It was forged from a fragment of Malrek's prison. Why would anyone do that? People are remarkably creative when being stupid. I liked Meleys. Every time the crown passes to a new ruler, she continued, the binding weakens. It was meant to choose rulers of Draven blood. And Seraphine isn't considered Draven blood. No, but she's my sister. Blood alone does not determine inheritance. The old magic recognizes the eldest daughter. I thought about Seraphine wearing the crown. What happens if she keeps it? Malrek wakes. That seemed bad. Can we just take it off her? Meleys gave me a look. Do you believe she will surrender it willingly? I remembered my sister's face when Cashen crowned her. No. Then you must make her. We returned to the capital 7 days later. But the city was already changing. Black clouds circled the palace. Birds had abandoned the rooftops. People whispered about shadows moving through alleys. Nyxarian refused to enter the city. Wrongness, he told me. At the palace gates, father met us. He looked terrified. Thank the gods. What's happened? Your sister. Cashen pushed past him. We found Seraphine in the throne room. She sat alone beneath the crown of stars. The gold had turned black. Thin veins of darkness crawled across her temples. Seraphine. She opened her eyes. They were no longer violet. They were silver. Elara. Her voice echoed. Cashen ran toward her. I grabbed him. Don't. Seraphine smiled. Still jealous. I almost laughed. Of this. Her smile vanished. Everything was supposed to be mine. There it was. Not Malrek. Not entirely. Seraphine. You already had everything. No, I had what people gave me because they thought I was pretty. Her voice trembled. You were always the important one. I stared at her. What? Father talked about you constantly. That was absurd. Father criticized me constantly. Because you mattered. She stood. The shadows moved with her. I heard him once, when we were children. He told Mother that you were the future of our family, that there was something special in your blood. My chest tightened. I spent my whole life knowing that no matter how beautiful I was, no matter how charming, no matter how perfect. Tears filled her strange silver eyes. You were born with something I could never have. And so you took Cashen. Her mouth twisted. He chose me. After you spent a year meeting him in secret. I loved him. Then why didn't you tell me? She said nothing. Because it hadn't only been about love. It had been about winning. Suddenly I saw my sister clearly. Not as the perfect daughter. Not as the thief who ruined my future. Just a frightened woman who had spent her life competing in a contest I hadn't known existed. I stepped toward her. Seraphine, take off the crown. No. It's hurting you. It chose me. It didn't. Her eyes flashed. The room shook. You think you're better than me. No, you always have. No, liars. Darkness exploded from her body. I hit the floor. Cashin slammed into a pillar. The throne room doors shattered, and a man stepped out of Seraphine's shadow. Tall, thin, crowned in black flame. Malrek, the Hollow King. Finally, he whispered. Seraphine collapsed. The crown floated from her head. Malrek caught it. The palace began to break apart. Outside, bells screamed across the city. I felt Nyxarian's roar inside my skull. Now, I ran. Malrek laughed. Run, little queen. I reached the balcony. Wind tore at my dress. Below, hundreds of people fled through the streets. Nyxarian flew toward me. There was no time to think. I climbed onto the railing. Cashin shouted my name. And I jumped. For 3 terrifying seconds, there was nothing beneath me. Then Nyxarian caught me. We rose over the palace. Dragons appeared beyond the city walls. Dozens. Malrek walked onto the balcony holding the crown of stars. Black lightning split the sky. He must be bound again, Nyxarian said. How? No answer. Of course. Why would ancient magic ever include instructions? Then I remembered Queen Elara. She had used her own life. No. Nyxarian turned his head slightly. I'm not dying because my ancestors failed to finish their argument. The dragon rumbled. Good. I blinked. You agreed. Your ancestor believed sacrifice was strength. Nyxarian climbed higher. Sometimes survival requires greater courage. Below us, Malrek raised both hands. Shadows poured from the palace. The dragons attacked. Fire filled the sky. For a moment, night became day. Malrek's darkness swallowed flame after flame. One dragon fell. Then another. I felt their pain through Nyxarian. Something broke open inside me. Heat spread through my veins. My hands began glowing. Not red. Gold. Malrek looked up. For the first time he seemed afraid. I understood. The dragons didn't serve House Draven. House Draven connected them. Their magic wasn't ours to command. It was ours to unite. I closed my eyes. And reached. One dragon. Then another. Then another. Dozens of minds touched mine. Ancient. Fierce. Wild. Beautiful. Together I told them. Nyxarian roared. Every dragon answered. They didn't breathe fire at Malrek. They breathed it toward Nyxarian. Red flame. Blue flame. White. Silver. Gold. The fires twisted together. Nyxarian's scales blazed like stars. I raised my hands. The dragonfire passed through me. It should have killed me. Instead, it felt like coming home. Malrek. The Hollow King looked up. I smiled. You've had 300 years. The golden fire erupted. That's long enough. The beam struck him. Malrek screamed. The crown of stars shattered. A shockwave swept across the city. Then silence. The black clouds disappeared. Malrek was gone. And I fell from the dragon. Again. I really needed to stop doing that. Nyxarian caught me before I hit the palace roof. Slow creature, he said. I laughed until I cried. Seraphine survived. For 3 days she didn't wake. Cashin never left her bedside. When she finally opened her eyes, I was there. She looked at me, then at the empty place where the crown of stars had once rested. Did we win? We did. Did I nearly destroy the kingdom? Technically, Malrek did most of that. She closed her eyes. You're being kind. Don't get used to it. A weak laugh escaped her. Then she started crying. I'm sorry. I had imagined those words for months. In my imagination, hearing them made everything better. Reality was different. Some wounds don't disappear because someone apologizes. But apologies can be beginnings. I know, I said. She looked at me. I really did love him. I glanced toward the door. Cashin was waiting outside. I know that too. And you. Did I love him? Once perhaps. Or perhaps I had loved the future we represented. Stability. Duty. A familiar life. But the woman who had climbed onto Nyxarian's back could no longer imagine spending her days smiling beside a throne. No, I said. And this time it wasn't a lie. Cashin and Seraphine married the following spring. There was no crown of stars. They commissioned a new one. Personally, I recommended something less likely to release an ancient sorcerer. They didn't laugh. I thought it was funny. Father attempted to restore our relationship. He explained that everything he had done had been for the family. For my safety. For duty. For tradition. I listened. Then I moved 300 miles north. He sends letters. Sometimes I answer. Mother visits. Seraphine visits more often than I expected. We are not the sisters we were before. Perhaps that's good. The sisters we were before had loved each other through secrets, resentment, and obligation. Now we're learning something more difficult. Honesty. As for Cashin, he became king 2 years later. A good king, surprisingly. Seraphine became a better queen. And me. I refused the throne of Valadrin. That shocked everyone. Meleys argued with me for nearly 4 hours. But you are the Dragon Queen. I'm Elara. You can be both. Fine, but I'm not sitting on a throne. So we compromised. The northern ruins were rebuilt. Not as a kingdom. As a sanctuary. Humans returned. Dragons returned. Children now grow up seeing wings across the mountains. And every year, someone from the capital arrives expecting to find Queen Elara Draven seated upon a jeweled throne. Instead, they usually find me arguing with Nyxarian because he has stolen livestock from a neighboring farmer. Again, it wandered onto my mountain, he insists. It's not your mountain. I am older than your kingdom. That doesn't make everything yours. It helps. Some arguments never end. But late at night, when the mountains are quiet, I sometimes think about the girl I used to be. The girl standing beneath floating candles, while the man she thought she would marry placed her crown upon someone else's head. She believed her life had ended. She believed she had been rejected. Replaced. Humiliated. She didn't understand that sometimes the door closing behind you isn't punishment. Sometimes it's the only thing forcing you toward the door you were always meant to open. Cashin choosing Seraphine changed my life. For a long time I hated them for it. Now, I'm almost grateful. Almost. Because if my sister hadn't taken my crown, I might never have discovered that I didn't need one. And I certainly never would have discovered the truth. The prince chose my sister. But the dragon chose me. And between the two, I think I got the better ending.